Welcome to this week's version of Irish Football Weekly here on The Grueling Truth. I'm one of the hosts, Josh Benjamin. Here on The Grueling Truth, also the co-host, one of the greats from the Notre Dame football program, Tony Hunter, is also on here with us. He's a former tight end from the Irish teams back in 1979 and 82. He was also a first-round draft pick with the Buffalo Bills back in the 83 draft. Tony, how you doing today?
Oh, Josh, I'm doing just fine. Beautiful fall day here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Leaves are turning. The sun is shining. It's beautiful here today. And it's a big weekend this weekend for the Notre Dame-Miami clash of the Titans. This was always one of my favorite games to play in when I was at Notre Dame against Miami. USC was my most favorite game to play in, but Miami was a close second to that.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to ask you a couple of questions about some memories back when those games were played. But before we get to that, just all the listeners out there, we are on multiple medias. The first and foremost, our website, thegruelingtruth.net. You can go on and find our show and several other shows of different sports. And also you can find us on Stitcher, Spreaker, iTunes. We also have an app now, the Grueling Truth Sports Network. You can follow and subscribe there. Also on Google Music and iHeartRadio. We also have social media. Tony Hunter and I both have Facebook accounts. You can search us. We also have a Facebook page for Irish Football Weekly, And I'm also on Twitter at CoachJB4. So tons of places to talk some Irish football. But let's move on, Tony. I want to talk about maybe a memory or two that you've had when you played against the Miami Hurricanes. Can you?
Yeah, you know what? A good friend of mine, Joe Lukens, who we were captains, teammates at Moeller together. I went on to play at Notre Dame, and he went on to play at Ohio State. He never played against Miami up there, and he asked me not too long ago. He said, what was it like to play against Miami? And I had to kind of ponder it and think about it. I said, one thing you could always guarantee against Miami, it's going to be a physical game. It's going to be physical all day long, all across the field. So button your chin strap and get ready for it anytime you play against Miami. And I remember the first time I played against them, we were in Tokyo, Japan. It was the Mirage Bowl. I don't think we went to a bowl game in the States that year, but we played Miami in the Mirage Bowl in Tokyo. And I can remember those guys hearing about fights they were having amongst themselves. We stayed at the same hotel, and they were having fights among themselves in the elevator at the hotel. And they tore up a bunch of rooms, and so I knew it was going to be a rowdy bunch. And come game time, we played against them, and at that time we had Vegas Ferguson, who was a all-time great at Notre Dame at running back. And I can remember Miami hitting him late out of bounds and in the end zone. And I can remember Vegas being real calm, saying, that's okay, that's good. But they were taking some cheap shots at him. And that kind of set the stage for the rest of my 4 years at Notre Dame. The Miami game was always one of the more physical games. But Joe Lukens asked me, are they dirty? And I couldn't really say that they're dirty, but they're just really, really physical, and you better be ready to play.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up cheap shots. I just want to comment on something I saw on social media. So Tony and I are on Facebook groups that involve Irish fans and Irish football fans, and we had some Miami Hurricanes somehow get allowed into those groups, those private groups, and they did some damage. They were talking some smack and saying some. So it doesn't surprise me, saying some choice words, especially to me. There was a couple that said something to me. I just tried to ignore it a little bit, but I got a little fired up. Yeah. So we got a rivalry amongst the fans.
They don't like us, and they get a lot of pleasure out of beating Notre Dame. Believe me, Miami is not very fond of Notre Dame, so it's always good to go down there and get a win. And you know what, Josh, I think it's going to play to Notre Dame's advantage this year that game's being played at night. It won't be as hot. That's one of the things that I noticed whenever we went down there late in the year to play Miami. It was always during the day. And, heck, we could leave South Bend, Indiana. It may be 15 or 20 degrees. Get down to Miami, it's 80. And come the second half, your legs are shot. And most of the time we were trying to come from behind to beat Miami. So that was always tough. But I think it'll play to our advantage that this game is a night game.
That's a valid point there. I didn't even think about that, Tony, but that definitely comes into play, especially for this Irish team, which let's go ahead and talk about this game. So they play 8 p.m. on Saturday night on Veterans Day, as a matter of fact, down in Miami Gardens, Florida. It'll be on ABC. I think watch ESPN, I think, as well on the app there. But, the Irish lead this series 18-7 and 1. There was one tie. And they've won 4 in a row against the Hurricanes, so that bodes well for them. The first meeting of all time between the Irish and the Hurricanes was back in 1955, where they were both ranked in the top 15, and Notre Dame beat Miami. They shut them out, actually, 14-0 down there in Miami. So good start for the meetings. But going to this game, 2 top 10 programs trying to both get back to where they were in the late 80s and the 80s and so on. And a lot of things that could happen in this game that could basically provoke either team to get into the college football playoff.
Oh, yeah. I think they're ranked number 3. Notre Dame's number 3, and I think Miami's number 7. Notre Dame's 8-1, and I think Miami's 8-0. So, there's a lot at stake going into this game. And, man, you could pretty much say it's a playoff game, and they're playing for a national championship or a chance for a national championship. But, I think the teams are equally matched, more so than I believe any game Notre Dame has played up to this point. I was just kind of looking at some of the stats where Notre Dame's quarterback, Wimbush, I think his stats are he has 102 completions. He's attempted it 199 times for 1,287 yards with 11 touchdowns and 2 INTs, whereas Rozier, the quarterback for Miami, has 154 completions out of 274 attempts for 2,200 yards and 19 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. So I think Miami, those 7 interceptions will let you know that he will put the ball up for grabs, but he also has 19 touchdowns. So he's been pretty successful with that. So been pretty successful throwing the football.
Sorry, Tony, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but
that's okay.
I was going to say, two guys that are heads of these programs, Coach Kelly, we know, of course, in his 8th year there, and then Coach Mark Richt, who came from Georgia, who started that program real strong. It kind of tailed off a little bit at the end, and then he got hired by the University of Miami, and in his second year, they're 17-4 under him, and just climbing the ranks there, doing some different things. So something that they're known for at this point. If you've ever watched a Hurricanes game or even some highlights, when there's a turnover, they pass a chain along on the sideline, a big gold chain with the U in the middle, and they have fun with it. Yeah, and hopefully we don't see that happen at all this weekend. But
I didn't know about that one. I saw they made the touchdown Jesus thing. They kind of put a guy holding a Miami M up with his hands, and it was a gold chain around his neck. I said, "Oh my God, they're pretty creative down there in Miami."
Yeah, you could definitely say that. So, like I said, I hope we don't see that chain come out. But Coach Richt is doing some great things down there with that program, trying to revive it and get it back to its, I guess I would say, the late 80s state of mind down there. But to go along what you said earlier, I think that protecting the football We haven't had, knock on wood, any real big issues with that this year, and that I think the offensive line has to really hone in, and because that Miami defense is pretty stout. They got some great players on that side of the ball that can move around. Of course, they're pretty fast as well, so we got to be very physical up front.
Oh, yeah. And the one thing I noticed about Miami when I played against them, the defensive backs, they were always fast, and they're always strong. They may not be as big as some of the defensive backs that I faced, like against USC and that, but the defensive backs were always strong. The corners were always strong, and they're always ready to do battle the whole game long. So it was just always a physical game, and I think the Notre Dame guys have to be ready because it's going to be a physical game, and that's pretty much how we like it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Miami defense and the defensive coordinators decide to go 8 in a box. And I actually thought USC was going to do this, and maybe it's because after they've tried it a few times it didn't work. But putting 8 in the box, going man on the receivers, and trying to stop the run and make Brandon throw. But they also got to be able to. They got to be able to contain him too.
I can see that. You know, Josh Adams already has 1,100 yards, almost 1,200 yards with 9 TDs already. So they are definitely going to focus on stopping the run. And our leading receiver is kind of surprisingly to me, Claypool, who had a good game last week. But I'm looking for St. Brown to come through and have a big game. Kevin Stephenson is playing good football. I'm looking for these guys to step up this weekend. And we're going to need it because they are definitely going to try to shut the run down with Josh Adams. And they may have the athletes to be able to do it, but yet we have an offensive line that's mighty tough. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think our receivers are going to have to step up if it calls for us to throw the football this weekend. I was looking at a stat, Josh. The stats, points per game. Notre Dame is scoring 41.3 points per game, which is unbelievable. I mean, we are putting up a lot of points this year. Miami is putting up 31.5 points a game. Points allowed, Notre Dame is allowing 18 a game. Miami is averaging 17 a game. Total yards, 495 Notre Dame. 461 is what they allowed for Miami. Yards passing, we're getting 170.4 yards per game. Miami's getting 288 yards passing per game. Yards rushing, we're averaging 324 per game. Miami is down there at 173 per game. Passing yards allowed, Notre Dame 245. And Miami's at 197 passing yards allowed. So, and the last one was rushing yards allowed. Notre Dame's at allowing 130 a game, whereas Miami's allowing 170 per game. So, very evenly matched teams when you look at the stats that way.
Yeah, and something that I'm going to pay attention to when we're watching the game this weekend. And, by the way, listeners, you can talk to us on Facebook during the game. Usually we have our phones next to us. We usually chat back and forth or with different people that we know. So you can add us on Facebook and definitely go to our page, like it, follow, and share, and see some comments on there. It's Irish Football Weekly. It's all you have to search. But like I said, Tony, I think there's something I'm going to watch, and I think it's going to be the passing defense of the Irish and seeing how they can adapt to these receivers and how athletic they are. And last week they really didn't do a great job, in my opinion, of that. And because, we gave up for the first time all season over 20 points, and it's actually in the 30s. And I'm a little concerned about that, even though I knew that they did some subbing and whatnot. And I'm just going to keep an eye on that this week because I think that might be critical to the Irish success.
Oh yeah. One thing I have noticed though, Josh, and I didn't notice this last year, we have some ball hawks back there on defense in our defensive backfield. Those guys are playing the ball really well. And last year I can't say that their ball skills were there. Guys are turning around and trying to make plays. Guys are out there trying to make big plays on defense. I haven't seen that in a while for an Irish defense.
Yeah, and I think they've gotten definitely better over the year. And maybe that was a game where they just kind of slipped up a little bit. And games are going to be like that once in a while. And I had some Irish fans kind of complain about the score this past weekend.
I saw that too. I noticed there was a lot of – they said, man, they're giving up too many points. But we have to take into consideration these guys are big-time college football players too now. So we'll see.
Yeah, and definitely there will be times where they have a game or two. Hopefully it's one this year. Hopefully it was that one, and they hone in back in, and I'm sure Coach Kelly and that staff will do so. But Tony, let's talk about a couple keys from each of us on what the Irish need to do to win this week. What are let's go with three. What are some keys to win the game this week against the Hurricanes down in Miami?
I think we're going to have to come out in that offensive line, our Notre Dame's offensive line, be dominant, establish a running game as we always have. As you know, that's been our key to winning. Once we establish that running game, we start to dominate the football game. I think it's going to be crucial defensively that we put pressure on that quarterback. I've watched him play a few times for Miami. And I think when you start to pressure him, he has a tendency to want to take off and run. But he's a decent passer. But I think we're going to have to put good pressure on him. And so that's offensively and defensively things I think we need to do. And then as far as special teams are concerned, we're going to have to keep playing good, solid football as we have been all year.
Okay, I totally agree with those right there. I got a couple as well. So I think the red zone efficiency for both offense and defense for the Irish has to be pretty good. They've done really well all year defensively for sure, and so that red zone efficiency, giving up just 3 points at the most on those possessions in the red zone would be outstanding. I would assume that would lead to a win, and then the offense has got to punch it in. I would say a couple to several times. I don't know. We'll talk about Irish prediction here later on, but so red zone efficiency, big plays. There's going to be some big plays. I feel that it's going to be an explosive game. The players are going to be really excited to play. They're going to be. I mean, I can't imagine what they're going to be feeling like when it comes game time, and I know you can elaborate on that yourself.
Oh yeah, they'll be pumped up. They'll be pumped up. I'm interested to see what this offensive line of Notre Dame is just really impressing me this year. I mean, last week, North Carolina State, that was a good defensive line, good athletic, a lot of guys that will probably get drafted high in the NFL next year. They started off the game. They were really causing Notre Dame a lot of problems. But Notre Dame eventually started to dominate that football game up front. And by the end of that game, it looked like North Carolina was ready to pack it in and go home before it was all said and done. And it will be interesting to see if our offensive line can do it against Miami. And if they can, we're ready to win a national championship.
Oh, man, I'm with you. And the last thing I was going to say for the keys of the game is persevering through whatever it is. Maybe they convert on a third down, whether maybe it's a big play, unfortunately. Maybe it's something negative for the offense, but got to persevere and get through those tough times during the game because, there's probably going to be a good crowd there. It is sold out down there, Miami Gardens. So I would hope there would be quite a few Irish fans in that stadium, but you never know. The Miami guys may not let us in, but hey, you never know, Tony. I'm sure people can attest to that. But anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So we got our
Hard Rock Stadium. Hard Rock Stadium is the name of that stadium now. Hard Rock Stadium. That's a great name for a Miami stadium. Hard Rock Stadium.
That's funny and very fitting. That's for sure. So let's go. Let's move on to our next segment, which is your segment. We might as well call it the Tony segment, but it's called the 3 toughest picks. If you haven't listened, we listeners out there, we picked 3 games that usually all the teams are ranked, or it's a big rivalry game, and we try to make our prediction with that. And Tony's up. He's 13-8. He lost a couple weeks ago, and I kind of gained a little bit. I'm 9-12, which isn't very much. Very good at all. But I'm inching my way back in the game, I think. Who knows? We'll see. But Tony, we got 3 tough games this week. We'll start out number 12 Michigan State at number 13 Ohio State.
Wow, that's going to be a big one. Ohio State's coming off a big loss. I'm going to go with Ohio State because Ohio State needs to win to get back into this thing. But yeah, so I'm going to go with Ohio State in that one.
Okay. All right. Well, not only am I going to go against you, I'm going to pick Michigan State. A couple of reasons. One, I'm going to try to get back in this little competition we got, but if that's possible. But Michigan State, man, they're very physical. They play.
They're good. They're good. Very good.
Yeah, and they're fundamentally sound. So I'm going to pick Michigan State on this game. So the second game, SEC, number 2 Alabama, traveling to number 16 Mississippi State. Who you got, Tony?
Ooh, that's always a tough game. That's a tough game for Alabama down at Ole Miss.
Yeah. Actually, Mississippi State.
Mississippi State. I'm gonna take Alabama in that one.
Okay.
If it was Ole Miss, if it was Ole Miss, I would probably go with Ole Miss on that one because they play Alabama tough at home.
That's true. That's a very good point. So you got Alabama. I'm going to take them as well. I'm not stupid. I'm going to take Alabama, and well, at least I like to think I'm not. But they'll come out with this win, in my opinion. So
Alabama.
Last game here, Tony. It's a big one. It's top 10 teams as well. Number 6, and this is not the college football playoff rankings, but this is just AP poll rankings. But number 6 TCU at number 5 Oklahoma. So,
wow. I'm going to go with the Sooners. The Sooners at home. I want to go with the Sooners at home.
I'm with you on that. I'm going to agree with you there. So we both took Oklahoma, both took Alabama, and we split on the Michigan State-Ohio State game. Some really good games going on right there for sure. So we let's go ahead and talk about the Irish prediction, Tony. We've been waiting for this for a while now, and man, it's just getting real excited each day. Thinking about playing that Saturday night under the lights under Miami. So what's the score? And we got, Tony. What's the Irish prediction here?
I'll tell you what, with the kind of points that Notre Dame's putting up on offense, if they continue, they're going to be tough to beat. They're going to be tough for anybody to beat. Averaging 41 points a game. Well, I'm going to have to go with their average. I'm going to say Notre Dame's going to put up 40 again, and they are going to beat Miami 40-28.
40-28 you have. Okay, so 40 Notre Dame and 28 for the U, as we like to call them. But, okay, I'm with you on that. I'm pretty close in the same realm there. I got the same score for Miami, so but I got the Irish getting 34 points and Miami 28. So a closer game, a touchdown game away from each other. But 34-28, Notre Dame coming home, traveling back to Indiana with a win there. So hopefully one of those works out for us. But we certainly think that they can do so. So
I hope to see a healthy Brandon Wimbush, Josh Adams. And I hope Dexter Williams gets back in there this weekend. But Notre Dame's really deep at running back. Man, it seems like a new running back shows up every week. It's running hard and is impressive. But with that offensive line, that's not surprising. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this weekend's game.
Yeah, me too. And just going to say they have to be balanced definitely on offense. I agree wholeheartedly with you on that. So, well, we got the fun fact for the finish. So Brian Kelly will coach his 100th game at Notre Dame for Notre Dame, I should say, on Saturday, becoming just the 5th head coach in school history to reach that milestone there. And
wow.
he joins Knute Rockne, Ara Parshegian, Lou Holtz, just to name a few that have done that before. So some pretty prestigious coaches there for the Irish. So
I like Brian Kelly, and I know he catches a lot, up there because Notre Dame's fans have such high expectations, and rightly so. We've been winners for a very long time. But I like Kelly because I like the type of players that he gets on campus. He gets guys like Dan Devine was getting when I was at Notre Dame. He gets guys that are being looked at to play at the next level. I can remember when I came in as a freshman, man, we had Dave Dewis, and we had a lot of guys that were really highly thought of coming out of high school with pro potential. And I think those are the kind of guys that he's starting to get. And I think with us winning the way we have been, it's just going to get better. And I hope that this year we have the top recruiting class in the country, and we just very, very well may.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and he does a great job. Him and his staff do of getting those players there, and then getting those guys to perform to their full potential. So I agree. Coach Kelly does do that. So, well, Tony, it's about that time to wrap it up here.
All right.
I just want to thank the listeners out there for taking time to listen on Irish Football Weekly. You can check out our show on the website, thegruelingtruth.net. Find our show plus other shows as well. And then you got us on Stitcher, Spreaker, Google Music, iTunes, which we have an app for that now. If you get on there, Grueling Truth Sports Network, you can subscribe and listen to our show anytime you'd like. Also, iHeartRadio, so plenty of media is there to listen to us. Tony and I are also on social media. Look us up on Facebook. We also have a Facebook page now, Irish Football Weekly. Go ahead and like and share that out to all the Irish football fans. I'm also on Twitter, at CoachJB4, so tons of places to talk to us during the game, after, before, and so on. So tons of places there for all of our listeners and fans. For my co-host, Tony Hunter, this is Josh Benjamin signing off for Irish Football Weekly. Go Irish! Peace.
Go Irish! Beat Miami!